It published secret government documents and embarrassed the powerful.
There have been examples in history in which official conduct has been made public in the name of exposing wrongdoings or misdeeds. This is not one of those cases.
It led to a mass hacker attack.
The unjust restrictions you impose on us will lead with disaster and only strengthen our resolve to disobey and rebel against your tyranny.
On News in Review today, WikiLeaks and the information war. Hello, I'm Michael Serapio. Whistleblowing has been with us forever, and it can take many forms. A worker in a factory tipping off an inspector about safety violations, a government employee slipping a reporter some secret documents in a brown paper envelope. But in the internet age, nobody has blown that whistle louder than the organization known as WikiLeaks.
Those killings were
The organization, headed by the Australian internet activist Julian Assange, publishes private classified information provided to it by anonymous sources. It is backed up by a network of servers in different countries, and it has embarrassed governments all over the world.
Come on, fire!
In April of last year, it released a video shot by 2 U.S. military helicopters in Iraq. The Pentagon claimed they were attacking a group of insurgents, but the video showed that some of those killed were civilians, including 2 Reuters news agency employees whose cameras were mistaken for weapons. Last July, WikiLeaks published thousands of classified military documents on the war in Afghanistan, documents that painted a grim picture of the way the war is going for Canadian and other NATO troops fighting there.
The real story of this material is that it's war. It's one damn thing after another.
Among other things, the reports claim that Pakistani intelligence agents were helping the Taliban, that many civilian deaths were going unreported, and that a Canadian helicopter was downed by a heat-seeking missile, not gunfire, as our military had said. The revelations caused quite a ruckus, with the U.S. government demanding that WikiLeaks stop publishing the secret documents. But that was nothing compared to the storm that erupted in late November, when the website published 250,000 diplomatic cables. The CBC's Terry Malevsky has that story.
This is not so much a leak, it's a deluge. WikiLeaks has poured out its first batch of brutally candid diplomatic reports showing how the U.S. Foreign Service really views a treacherous world. It is no surprise that topic A is the nuclear ambitions of Iran's Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But what is surprising is the volume of calls for a strike on Iran, not just from Israel, but from Iran's Arab neighbors. Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah is just one. The cables refer to the king's frequent exhortations to the U.S. to attack Iran and so put an end to its nuclear weapons program. He told you to cut off the head of the snake. Another big topic is the already nuclear Pakistan, where the cables suggest the U.S. has been trying to remove highly enriched uranium from a Pakistani research reactor to stop it falling into the wrong hands. But it says the Pakistanis refused because the local media would portray it as the United States taking Pakistan's nuclear weapons. And in between Iran and Pakistan lies a chronically corrupt Afghanistan. Speaking of President Hamid Karzai's brother, U.S. diplomats reported that while we must deal with Ahmed Wali Karzai, he is widely understood to be corrupt and a narcotics trafficker. Yet another startling detail in the cables is that Washington is apparently spying on the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. The U.S. is said to be looking for biometric data and even credit card numbers for top UN officials. Then there is China, in public a new friend to the U.S., but the cables blame the Chinese Politburo for hacking into Google's email system, saying this was part of a campaign of computer sabotage by the Chinese government.
The WikiLeaks release was condemned by governments around the world, with some diplomats warning it could endanger their safety.
If I'm an ambassador, I'm very concerned about, if somebody in my host country tells me something that's very important that my government needs to know, I need to be pretty sure that I'm not going to be reading about it in the Globe and Mail the next morning.
But nobody was as angry as the U.S. government.
There have been examples in history in which official conduct has been made public in the name of exposing wrongdoings or misdeeds. This is not one of those cases.
And some politicians in the United States called the WikiLeaks leader a terrorist who should be jailed or even executed. But who are these Wiki warriors? What are their motives? And how does their organization work? The CBC's Joanna Remiliotis decided to take a closer look at the whistleblowing website.
It used to be sources or deep throats hid in real shadows.
You build from the outer edges and you go step by step.
Enticing journalists with promises of the real story, the real dirt.
I need to know what you know.
Now think of WikiLeaks as a virtual parking lot, where anonymous whistleblowers park their incriminating information for any journalist to expose, where nothing is secret anymore.
There certainly have been people that have lost elections as a result of material appearing on WikiLeaks. There have been prosecutions as a result of material appearing on WikiLeaks.
This is Julian Assange, the unusual and uncompromising co-founder of WikiLeaks. A reformed computer hacker, Assange has become a cause célèbre for exposing what you need to know, but likely never would.
WikiLeaks, your baby, has, in the last few years, has released more classified documents than the rest of the world's media combined.
It's a worry, isn't it, that the rest of the world's media is doing such a bad job that a little group of activists is able to release more of that type of information than the rest of the world press combined.
We were scheduled to have one from him, but his original piece was on the G20 coverage.
At this citizen-driven news site, people write in with stories they want investigated. Kathy Vey says WikiLeaks offers that and more to a public that has become more sophisticated and more skeptical.
People like to be engaged. They like to take part in what's happening rather than just be dictated to.
But while it's all about transparency, WikiLeaks operates very much in the shadows. A team of unnamed volunteers authenticates the leaks, and the site's servers are said to be scattered in dozens of secret locations.
That said, of course, we have not released the...
Even Assange shuttles between countries reportedly with only a backpack, surfacing only when it's time to publicize his next big scoop.
Our commitment to our sources is not just to protect them, and we have never lost a source. It is not just to publish their material, it is to get the maximum political impact possible.
It's why Assange says he gave the Afghanistan war logs to 3 mainstream papers, rather than simply post them on the internet. Journalism professor Joyce White says it's a clever move that in this case worked for both sides.
These are still places that are trusted for this kind of information. I don't think that this kind of story would have received the same attention if it had just been placed on WikiLeaks and nobody had picked it up or touched it.
Who's got the hero view? Who's got the dangerous troublemaker view?
Hero or troublemaker, Assange claims WikiLeaks has not made a mistake yet and promises there are many, many more secrets to expose. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
But as more documents were released, WikiLeaks itself came under attack. Hackers tried to bring the site down. Companies like PayPal and MasterCard blocked supporters from contributing to its defense fund. A young American soldier, Bradley Manning, was jailed for allegedly leaking the diplomatic cables. He had apparently bragged of downloading the cables onto a memory stick while pretending to be listening to Lady Gaga. And in December, Assange found himself in a British prison. The Swedish government said Assange had been accused by 2 women of coercing them into having sex without a condom, which is a crime in Sweden. And it asked the British government to send him back to that country. His lawyers claimed he was being framed.
This is going to go viral. Many people believe Mr. Assange to be innocent, myself included.
The U.S. government was pleased.
I hadn't heard that, but that sounds like good news to me.
And as the CBC's Nala Ayed reports, an army of hackers struck back at his enemies.
The declaration of war by anonymous defenders of the internet came in monotone computer voices.
The unjust restrictions you impose on us will meet with disaster and only strengthen our resolve to disobey and rebel against your tyranny.
And that is no idle threat. A powerful group of cyber activists that calls itself Anonymous is well into what it describes as Operation Payback. Today, it managed to slow down or briefly shut down online financial giants Visa and MasterCard, as well as internet payment site PayPal and other sites. It's payback, says Anonymous, for suspending the collection of donations for WikiLeaks. It's also pushback against the governments who've condemned WikiLeaks and want it shut down.
Spring out of the outrage among the general public, but it's not orchestrated by us.
But as WikiLeaks gets deeper into trouble, online support is on the verge of going viral. And here, the battle is undoubtedly one between free speech and censorship.
You type WikiLeaks insurance.
And so they pitch in however they can. This Montrealer created a mirror site for the troubled WikiLeaks, which, under threat of complete shutdown, has become a kind of online fugitive.
Since hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have done that already, this means that this means that the internet has fulfilled the promise that I always knew it would fulfill. It's making censorship it's making a laughable attempt out of the censorship.
That there would be such a groundswell of support isn't surprising, says this journalism professor, but how far some will go is.
The scale is unique. And to some degree, I guess the impunity is unique, because to take out, something like MasterCard is a level above, for the most part, a level above what we've seen before.
There are many out there who support the motives of Anonymous, but not the tactic of taking down websites, because in the end, it seems to fly in the face of what the group is fighting for.
The hacker attacks eventually died down. After spending 10 days in jail, Julian Assange was released on bail. He was placed under house arrest at the country home of one of his supporters, where, as the CBC's Susan Ormiston reports, he denounced the way he had been treated.
Well, I have been out of touch. I have been in a black hole for 10 days.
Fresh from prison under what's being dubbed mansion arrest for his confinement to a country manor, Julian Assange was speaking out on what he calls a smear campaign.
A Swedish prosecutor, in its representations to the British government here in the British courts, say it didn't need to provide a single shred of evidence. Said this 3 times and in fact has provided nothing. Similarly, in the United States, with what appears to be a secret grand jury investigation against me or our organization, not a single comment about what is actually going on.
Assange was released last night on bail with conditions. He'll wear a monitoring bracelet and today began his daily reporting to police. There are no charges against him, but he's wanted on sex allegations in Stockholm. Last August, 2 women who slept with him say he molested them and had sex without a condom. Jail time, says Assange, did not stop WikiLeaks.
It is designed to withstand decapitation attacks, and our publishing rate actually increased over the time that I was in solitary confinement. And we see even today, with our British media partner, The Guardian, latest story coming out of these cables, India accused of systemic use of torture.
Silenced for 10 days, Julian Assange is making up for lost time. He still faces possible extradition to Sweden in February, but the lingering question is whether the U.S. will and can pursue charges against him. So far, it has not. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, London.
Whatever happens to Assange or WikiLeaks, many cyber experts do agree on one thing. The controversy has served to show that in the digital and internet age, privacy is fragile, and no information is really safe. And that is News in Review. Don't forget to check out our website at newsinreview.cbclearning.ca. I'm Michael Serapio. Thanks for watching. A small and poor country struggles to recover from a deadly earthquake, only to receive another devastating blow.
To be clear, This woman has cholera.
Yes, she has, yeah.
On News in Review today, Haiti in a time of cholera. Hello, I'm Michael Serapio. It's been just over a year since a massive earthquake struck the impoverished Caribbean country of Haiti. More than 300,000 people were killed, another 300,000 people were injured, and more than 1 million were left homeless. Although many countries, including Canada, sent aid and money, rebuilding that shattered country has proved slow and painful. 6 months after the quake, a CBC camera crew found the streets of the capital, Port-au-Prince, still littered with rubble. Desperate people everywhere. I have lost everything, this man said. I have to borrow a cup if I want a drink of water. The presidential palace was still in ruins, and over 1 million people were still living in overcrowded camps. There had been some progress. Water was available, so was food, and some job programs had been created, but frustration with the government of President René Préval was growing, and so was the misery. And then, as if that wasn't enough, 2 months later, Haitians were hit by another disaster, an outbreak of the deadly disease cholera in an area just north of Port-au-Prince. Here's the CBC's Kelly Crow.
Cholera was one problem Haiti didn't have. There hadn't been an outbreak here in 100 years until this week.
We can confirm that we have specific case of cholera in Haiti since Tuesday.
Now, hundreds of patients are crowding hospitals, weak from the disease that has drained their body of its fluids. So far, more than 140 people have died.
They're forcing everybody to come up here to St. Nicolas. I raced this guy up here and he just died now. As I came to the gate and they told him no.
And it's going to get worse.
This outbreak